Former health insurance executive Wendell Potter is explaining how the healthcare industry talking point about consumer choice came to be. In an op-ed in the New York Times, Wendell Potter says that it makes the idea of changing the current system sound scary and limiting. The problem, it's a PR concoction.
Wendell Potter joins us now via Skype to expand on his op-ed. He currently serves as president of Medicare for All Now. Great to see you, sir.
Thanks very much, Crystal.
What did you want to explain in this piece?
I wanted to explain and help people understand how disinformation campaigns work, how the work I used to do is so effective and so persuasive to get people to believe things that just simply aren't true, and to help people understand how just simple words like the word choice how those words are used as part of a propaganda campaign. The industry that I used to work for, the insurance industry, and its allies that are opposing Medicare for All want us to think that Medicare for All will reduce or eliminate choice, when the exact opposite is true. And what is also true is that in our current system, health insurance companies are systematically limiting the choice that we care about, and that is the choice of doctors and hospitals. And the other thing is that very few of us have any control over who we have as a health insurance company. Most of us who get our coverage through the workplace, it's not us who choose the health plans, it's our employer. So the point of the op-ed was to explain that, but also to help people understand how propaganda works.
So, Wendell, there was a particular moment from the debate we want to get your reaction to, in which Bernie Sanders was asked about people being put out of work by the insurance companies. Let's take a listen to that, and then we'll get your response.
We build into our Medicare for All program a transition fund of many, many billions of dollars that will provide for up to 5 years income and health care and job training for those people. But here is the issue. Tom Steyer made the point a moment ago. We are now spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country. That is insane. In some cases, 10 times more for prescription drugs. Why is that? Why is that? And the answer is the greed and corruption of the drug companies and the insurance companies.
Wendell, I want to get your reaction to that framing of that question specifically, which is that about the number of people who are employed in the healthcare industry who might lose their jobs as a result of Medicare for All. What is the response to that as somebody who advocates for that position?
Well, first of all, it's also part of the propaganda campaign of the other side. Yeah, there will be some jobs that will be changed, that will no longer be needed when we get to Medicare for All. Insurance companies employ people like I used to be, to wage propaganda campaigns. They employ large sales and marketing teams and employ legions of underwriters and doctors and nurses who are there primarily to say no to us and our doctors when we need treatment. Those kinds of functions are not needed. No other country has a mechanism like we have. What Sanders was referring to was a provision of his bill. There's also a similar provision in the House bill that would set aside several $1 billion to help those people whose jobs will no longer be needed to be retrained. Here's another point, though. As I mentioned, a lot of these insurance companies, they actually employ tens of thousands of nurses that can go back to providing care. They're not providing care now, and in many cases, they're a barrier to getting the care that we need. So again, this is just part of the disinformation campaign from the other side to scare us. It's all about scaring us into thinking something that just simply isn't true and obscuring the reality of what Senator Sanders said. There will be a lot of money set aside for those who need to be retrained and to help them get other jobs.
I do think this is an important area, though, because, tens of thousands of people work, and what I agree is a very inefficient, administrative cost, and that contributes to a massive amount of bloat. But that actually is what floats a lot of rural communities. So, in terms of job training, I think we all know job training for a lot of other industries has never worked out. What is the provision, is it just a response that, yeah, you're going to have to lose your job, but everybody has aggregate lower cost? How that is, I think, a legitimate political question.
It is a legitimate question. But keep in mind, you mentioned rural areas. There are very, very few insurance jobs in rural areas. Most of them are clustered in big cities or mid-sized cities. So that's where those are. They're not in rural areas. And the current system is holding back entrepreneurship and small businesses. Small businesses in this country are really disadvantaged because of our current system. More and more of them cannot offer benefits. So they're having a hard time finding workers and retaining them. And this would also unleash, I think, a new era of entrepreneurship in this country. There are so many people who are in jobs they don't like, but they're there only because of benefits. So we could see, I think, an explosion of new jobs around the country. And this would also be a special help to folks who live in rural areas. Among those small businesses that cannot afford to offer coverage to their workers or to their families are family farms in throughout the country in the Midwest. So we can take care of the people who are currently in insurance jobs and would be facing a need to get retrained for something else, but also keep an eye on the fact that we have a lot of people who would like to start their own businesses, but just simply can't do it because of the way our system is structured.
I mean, we have to reject a talking point that would say we have to have this job base of people whose job it effectively is to screw over their fellow citizens. I mean, you understand this with McKinsey, right?
Sure, yeah.
With private equity, it's the same deal. Like this same talking point could be leveraged to justify any exploitative and toxic industry. I mean, this is a totally extreme and somewhat outlandish example, but we have a massive addiction crisis. We have a lot of people dying, overdosing from that addiction crisis. Well, the overdose drugs that help bring you back to life, which is very important, that people make money off that. Funeral directors from burying people. I mean, people are going to lose jobs if you deal with the opioid crisis and you end the addiction crisis. Like, it's insane to think that we should base our economy and our healthcare system around maintaining a fundamentally toxic, exploitative, damaging industry. And I have to say, Wendell, when I was watching that debate, I couldn't wait to talk to you because it felt to me like every single question on healthcare was framed from industry talking points. I mean, Sanders got another question about, aren't you going to bankrupt the country? Well, come on. Look around the world. We're the only developed nation that doesn't do this, and we have the highest cost of any of them. So I thought they had it seemed like every single question came from a pro-industry, like they just read the talking points and spat them out there on the stage.
And I wrote a piece about that a few weeks ago about that exact thing, that the other side, the insurance industry and its PR machine, has been very successful in getting the media to buy into their language, to use the language they want the media to use and moderators in debates, and to ask those questions as they did. You're exactly right. It's something very few people are tuned into. You are among those who are aware of just how this works. Most people are not. They just don't know how propaganda works and how they're thinking. Even reporters would probably deny that they're influenced. It's very subtle, but they absolutely are.
Yeah, indeed. Wendell, thank you so much. Always great to have your perspective.
Thank you very much.
Next on Rising, Hill reporter Rafael Bernal shares his reporting on why the Nevada primary shouldn't be overlooked.